Tonight is a special night at the White House. It's Donald and Melania's 20th wedding anniversary. 20 years is a long time, especially for Melania. This morning, Trump paid tribute to his longest-serving wife by reposting this AI image of himself with a lion.
Trump losing his cool over a late-night joke. Classic Jimmy Kimmel just cracked a joke about his marriage, and let's just say it hit a little too close to home. Now Trump fuming like a toaster stuck on high. Will he brush it off or unleash a social media meltdown, or will Melania give him the look that says not this again? Popcorn ready, let's go.
He noticed a bunch of people posting about his anniversary, which remind him, oh, it's my anniversary. So he then reposted this sweet photo of Melania literally pushing him away from her.
Kimmel knows exactly what he's doing. The man has been in the late night game long enough to understand that when you take a swing at Trump, you don't just land a joke, you detonate a full-blown media explosion. So when he stepped onto that stage grinning like he had just been handed the comedic equivalent of a golden ticket, the audience braced themselves.
Our president kept the crowd very warm at CPAC over the weekend. CPAC, if you're not familiar, is basically what would happen if Judge Jeanine Pirro headlined the Fire Festival. It's a lot of very angry white people. It is the largest gathering of people who believe vaccines are witchcraft in the world. And for 2 hours and 2 minutes, Donald Trump gave what I believe we may look back on as his I Have a Dream speech. This was his longest speech since taking office. He went on and on. You could have left this speech, watched 2 episodes of Game of Thrones, come back, and he would still have been going. And to kick things off, Trump went to one of his signature moves to start it. And I know there's a lot of competition, but this, I think, this might be the dumbest thing he does. Donald Trump shows more affection to flags than Eric and Don Jr. have ever gotten in their whole lives.
He started light, a playful jab here, a little tease there. Classic warm-up material, the kind that keeps the audience engaged but doesn't ruffle too many feathers. But that wasn't what everyone was waiting for. No, they knew the real punchline was coming, and then like a perfectly timed knockout punch, he dropped.
Has there ever been a worse host than Jimmy Kimmel at the Oscars? His opening was that of a less-than-average person trying too hard to be something which he is not and never can be. Blah, 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 make America great again. Thank you for watching. I'm surprised you're still... Isn't it past your jail time?
Of course, in any crowd there are always those few people who suddenly decide to forget they bought tickets to a comedy show. They sit there stiff as statues, refusing to react, as if laughing might put them on some kind of secret government watch list. Meanwhile, the rest of the audience is in absolute chaos, wiping tears, clapping, and gasping for air.
According to reports from multiple news outlets, his former sister-in-law alleges that Hegseth's wife was terrified he would abuse her to the point where she and her sister had a code to text each other if her husband became violent, and she feared for her safety.
Here's where things really get fun. See, Kimmel doesn't just drop a joke and move on. Oh no, he doubles down. He starts breaking it down, making it worse or better depending on your perspective. He leans into the joke, teasing it apart piece by piece, dragging out the laughter until it's clear some people in the audience are about 2 chuckles away from needing a medic. Then there are the cameras, because let's be real, whenever a comedian roasts Trump, there's always that moment when the cameras start hunting.
I was going to make stuff up about him. I'd start telling people he wears diapers. I would explain that it's a long trial. He drinks a lot of Diet Cokes to stay awake. He's getting up there in years, and it's perfectly normal for a man of Trump's age and carriage to wear absorbent undergarments to stop the leaks. So, I mean, if I was making stuff up, that I would point out that the reason he stands like this and golfs like this and plays tennis like this is because he has a full diaper strapped around his little mushroom garden.
Okay, they scan the crowd looking for the reaction shots that are about to go viral. Who's laughing too hard, who's pretending they didn't just laugh, who's nervously checking their phone to make sure they don't have any messages from their Republican uncle. Yet it's all part of the spectacle, and somewhere in a dimly lit room with a Diet Coke in hand, Trump himself might have already been watching. Maybe he was flipping through channels just in time to catch Kimmel delivering the line that would ruin his night. Maybe an aide texted him warning that Twitter, sorry, Truth Social, was about to go nuclear. Either way, one thing was certain: Kimmel had just made sure Trump's next 24 hours would be spent crafting the perfect angry response.
Jimmy Fallon asks me if he could do one thing. Could he play with my hair?
Can I mess your hair up?
I want to see if it's real. So he didn't just play. He puts his hand in my hair, and the audience went wild, and they loved it. 6 months later, he stood up and he said, "I'd like to apologize for doing that." He lost his whole audience.
Would it be an all-caps meltdown, a rambling post about fake news late-night losers, or maybe a fresh conspiracy theory about how Jimmy Kimmel is part of a deep state plot to overthrow him? No one knew yet, but one thing was for sure: this joke had just lit a fuse, and the explosion was coming. Trump and late-night comedian go together like gasoline and a lit match, except in this case the fire never goes out. If there's one thing the late-night circuit can count on, it's that taking a jab at Trump will guarantee headlines, viral clips, and a fresh batch of outrage. Social media warriors ready to battle it out in the comment sections, but this feud didn't start when he became president. No, Trump has been a late-night punching bag for decades. Back in the 80s and 90s, he was the flash real estate mogul with the golden towers and the oversized ego, a walking, talking caricature. Before he even had political ambitions, comedians loved him then too. But the jokes were more about his ridiculous wealth, bizarre media appearances, and of course the hair.
Usually when Donald Trump gets a spanking like this from a woman, it's with a Forbes magazine. Kamala was pushing his buttons like a 12-year-old playing Fortnite. This was a much better debate than the last debate. This is like the Lion King when Simba came back to avenge Mufasa. Trump's advisors, before the debate, they urged him to be happy Trump instead of mean bully Trump, and to please focus on the issues. Of course, he didn't listen to any of that at all. But who are we kidding? This election isn't about the issues. I mean, Dick Cheney isn't voting for Kamala Harris because he agrees with her on the issues. He's voting for her because there's a rhinoceros charging and she has the tranquilizer.
Then the Apprentice era arrived, and Trump fully leaned into his persona as the tough boss who fired people for sport. Late-night hosts had a field day. Conan O'Brien, David Letterman, and Jay Leno took their shots, roasting everything from his catchphrase to his obsession with putting his name on literally everything. But back then, Trump played along. He liked the attention. He even went on these shows laughing with the hosts while they poked fun at him, because at the time it was all part of his brand. Then came 2016, the moment Trump transitioned from reality TV to actual reality. Late-night comedy took on a whole new mission. This wasn't just about teasing a quirky billionaire anymore. This was war. Stephen Collar, who had spent years perfecting satire on the Colbert Report, sharpened his attack. Seth Meyers, who had already roasted Trump at the 2011 White House Correspondents' Dinner, made his late-night monologues practically a nightly Trump roast session. Jimmy Kimmel, who had mostly stuck to lighthearted humor, suddenly found himself in the middle of the political storm, using his platform to comment on Trump's policy statements and, of course, his Twitter meltdowns. Then there was Jimmy Fallon, whose approach was infamous mistake of playfully ruffling Trump's hair in a 2016 interview, and an attempt to keep things apolitical. The backlash was immediate. Fans accused him of humanizing Trump at a time when the stakes were too high. Fallon later admitted he regretted the moment, but the damage was done, and Trump, he never forgot. Years later, he still took jabs at Fallon, even demanding that he be a man and stop apologizing. As President Trump hated late-night comedians, he called them unfunny, overrated, and part of the fake news media. When Colbert mocked him in an especially brutal monologue, Trump dismissed him as a no-talent guy. When Kimmel criticized his policies, Trump went after his ratings if he wasn't attacking them on Twitter. Now Truth Social, he was ranting about them at rallies, turning their jokes into campaign grievances. Even post-presidency, Trump's grudge against late-night TV hasn't faded. The problem: the jokes never stop coming, and as long as there's a microphone, a stage, and an audience ready to laugh at his expense, late-night comedians will always have fresh material.
He lost his whole audience.
For years, Trump and Melania's relationship has been the internet's favorite mystery, right up there with what's in Area 51 and who keeps buying Nickelback albums from the outside. Their marriage often looks less like a love story and more like a long-term business contract with a strict no hand-holding clause. And let's be honest, late-night hosts, especially Jimmy Kimmel, haven't let a single awkward moment slide. Kimmel's joke wasn't just funny, it was a surgical strike on an ongoing pop culture phenomenon. The moment it landed, the audience's reaction said it all: laughter, gasps, and that undeniable "oh, he went there" energy. Because let's face it, people have been talking about the Trump marriage saga for years. It's been dissected, analyzed, and memified to the point where every small interaction between the two gets scrutinized like it's a high-stakes poker match.
Speaking of prisoners, this should be an interesting Valentine's Day at the White House. For instance, will Donald Trump get flowers from Vladimir Putin? We don't know. And what about his wife, Melania? Will they spend the night together, or will she remain trapped like Rapunzel at their apartment in New York? Did you know Melania Trump has a new line of greeting cards? They carry these now at CVS. They're interesting, actually. I've not seen any. Happy Valentine's Day. Open out saving.